Hi everybody and welcome to our grooming channel. My name is Melanie Newman and this is Summer the Bichon. In today's grooming session, I'm going to teach you how to scissor a round face as well as scissoring big Princess Leia type ears, and we are actually going to change her ear set. So we're going to move her ears up a little higher. So I'm going to share with you how I do that. The grooming equipment we are going to use in today's grooming session is, I have my fine tooth comb. So I prefer a fine tooth comb because it separates the hair really well. I'm also going to use my double-sided slicker. I prefer this slicker on Summer's head, and especially those ears, because she does have a lot of hair around those ears, and this slicker, the pins are a little bit longer, so they tend to go through the coat and penetrate right down to the base of that coat. A pair of blacksmith curves. These are a P&W and I use these a lot, so you would have seen me use these in a few of our other videos. These are actually a 7.5. I'm also going to use a pair of P&W blenders. So these are a part of the Spartan range, and these are a 7.5 and they are a 28 tooth blender. And I have my P&W Spartan thinners, and these are a 65 tooth and these are a 7.5. So I really like to do a lot of blending and a lot of detailed work with these blenders or thinners. And I have my trusty Groom Tech 8-inch scissors, and you would have seen me use these in a lot of my videos as well. I'm also going to be using the little Sheer Magic battery trimmer. So I prefer to use this around my dog's eyes because it's really super quiet and it actually cuts quite short, so it really cleans out those eyes. Just going to lightly spritz Summer's face with the Relaxed Coat Conditioning Spray, and using my slicker, I'm just going to gently go through and making sure I removed all the knots and tangles. And then using our fine tooth comb, ensuring that we've removed all those knots and tangles. I'm going to use a Sheer Magic trimmer just to clip out in front of her little eyes. So I'm not going to clip out in between her two eyes, it's just going to be this small amount in front of her eyes. And I'm going to keep hold of her little chin hair and come in towards her eye and just scoop that hair out. And we can come in going against the grain as well and clipping towards her nose, but not clipping down the bridge of her nose. It's just in front of those two eyes. It helps just remove all the dark coloured hair, all the staining. And her other side, so I'm coming in towards her eye and just scooping out that hair in front of her eye. And then I'm going to go in against the grain and clipping towards the tip of her nose, but we're not going to go down her whole bridge, it's just in front of her little eye. Using our thinners, we are just going to tidy up between her two eyes, so we're not clipping out that area, just because I want it to have a little bit more of a softer appearance. So I'm just going with the direction of her coat with the thinners and just using the tips. So it's just a smooth transition from where we've used the thinners to where we've clipped in front of that eye. then using our fine tooth comb, we are going to comb probably half of her skull forward. And then using our straights, I'm going to come in on a 45-degree angle and cut in her little fringe. So this will help frame her eyes as well. So it'll help remove all the hair that's curling into her eyes, as well as giving her a nice little cute expression and opening up those eyes. And we can cross-check our work by combing it out again. And then using our straights on that 45, just scissoring off anything that we missed. Before we begin scissoring into the side of this head, we need to just make sure that we are not going to scissor off any hair on her cheek. And what I mean by that is that to get these big full ears, these ears need to actually be supported by hair underneath. So what I've done is I've kept all this hair that is from the corner of her eye to the corner of her ear. I've kept all this hair to support that ear. So when we scissor into her muzzle, and I normally scissor about 1 centimetre past the corner of her eye to create a nice round head coming through her muzzle up to the top of her head, I need to make sure I'm not going to cut this hair off that is supporting that ear, because this is what is giving us the volume for that ear to sit on. Because if we take that away, all of a sudden the ear loses that volume and there's nothing to support it. But then we put it back and we can get a nice full ear. I've already clipped Summer's body on a 3-blade. So I've clipped up to the jawline on her head. So this will give us the base when we're coming around the side of her cheek area, but remembering that we can't go into this area that we're keeping all that hair. If you're looking to grow out this hair on that cheek area, I normally start it from the corner of their eye and then coming straight across to the corner of the start of their ear. So flip her little ear up, and it's everything that you normally take off, but we're going to let this grow very similar to a Bichon head. So we actually, for a Bichon head, we would keep all the muzzle so it comes nice and round. With Summer, we are actually cutting in a smaller muzzle, but keeping that hair growing on that cheek. And if you can see, I've clipped up to the jawline, and then all of a sudden I've got that long hair where that ear is then supported. So that's the hair that you would grow. I'm just using my fine tooth comb just to comb everything out the way it's going to naturally lie. And then I'm going to use the tip of my scissor to make the mark of where I'm actually going to finish my line, and that will be where our head is actually going to start, so to create that roundness. And like I said previously, it's going to be about 1 centimetre past the corner, the outer corner of her eye. So using my straights, I'm just going to come straight in and make that mark. And I'm making sure I'm still keeping her muzzle nice and round as I'm trying to create this shape. And the other side, and the tip of my scissor is at about 1 centimetre past the outer corner of the eye. And as I'm scissoring, I'm creating roundness, so that nice round muzzle. And now I'm just going to scissor her jawline. So using my fine tooth comb, just pulling everything out. And if you prefer to use curves on this area, you definitely can. I just like using straights. I don't know why. So just coming in and cutting off everything, making it nice and round. And I'm still not going past the point that I've already made. Not cutting into that ear area that we need. I'm just going to gently comb out her little whisker hair, and then using the tips, I'm just going to scissor them off, so this creates a nice round blend around her little lip area. So I've got my basic shape on my muzzle, so I don't want to go any shorter than that. So now I'm going to work on the top of her head and setting in the top of these ears. Let's have a look at where her ear actually begins. So her ear actually begins there. So if we were just to take out the hair that is on her ear, it would actually just be the smallest amount actually. So it would just be this bit here. But we want to change her ear set, so we want her ear set to appear nice and high. So to achieve this, I'm going to come in with my curves, and again using the tip as my marker, I'm going to cut up to this point. So if I wanted her ear set to start even higher, I would then just scissor to this point and grow out all this hair. So we are going to scissor a definite line to begin her ear. So you can either come over the top like I am, or come through and cut that definite line in. I prefer to come over the top. And I like working from the back and coming into the front. And then just checking to see where that ear is sitting. And I'm really happy with the shape that's coming in. And then coming into the other side and making sure that it's nice and even, Steven. So if you are trying to cut in and match up each side, just start your line a little bit higher and then working downwards. And we do have this nice peak at the top of her head, and we're just going to round that in. I like to use my fine tooth comb all the time to pull everything out and combing through and making sure we haven't missed anything. I've set in the basic shape of Summer's head with my scissors, so I'm going to come back over this to round it in a little bit more and make it a little bit softer after we finish those ears. So it's just sort of roughing in that basic shape. So I've set in her muzzle, the top of her head, and behind Summer's head. So let's work on these wonderful ears. So as you can see, and as we've already spoken about, that we have all this hair underneath the ear. So again, it's supporting the actual ear leather. So how we're going to scissor her ears is we're going to come up and around. We're not going to lift up the ear and scissor at all. We are going to scissor it as it lies. And as we scissor, we are going to come upwards. I'm going to just comb out any little knots and tangles out of that ear and making sure I've removed all the little bits of cuttings that have come off her head into that ear, and they can form little knots and tangles. So just making sure it's all free of any loose hair. And I'm going to be using my Spartan blender. So these are the 28 tooth. And then I'm just going to gently cut off small amounts of coat at a time and just rounding that ear into itself. I like to just push our dog's ears forward a little bit, because when we get our dog's attention, it tends to change their ear set. So I like to push it forward just to see how it's going to sit when I call Summer and her ears pop up. And then just scissor it as it lies like that as well, and just small amounts at a time, so we're working that shape in. And using our comb to always comb out. And working from where that jawline is, through this area, and coming up and around. So it's nice and soft, and we get like a nice ball effect on those ears. And turning Summer's head to the side, so then we are going to do our area at the back of our ear. So I like to just comb that out with our fine tooth comb, and using our blenders, again working upwards, up and round, creating that round shape, and always moving those blenders so they're not just staying in the same spot. See how it looks from the front now. A bit of a comb, push those ears forward. To prop those ears forward, all I do is pop my fingers behind her ear, so just right at the back of her ear, and then just gently move it forward. Your comb is your best friend when you are doing more intricate work. So we need to make sure we're pulling everything out constantly and cross-checking our work. Because here I've missed a little bit, and if I didn't comb, I would never have seen that area. Pick it up, re-comb, cross-check. Just working on the front of her ear, so rounding that in, because what I don't want to happen is that she gets all this hair in her eyes. So making sure we're rounding that upwards, so everything is round on these ears. And then working my way up, further up towards the top of her ear. And I'm always checking this area as I'm scissoring up towards the top of that ear. And making sure it's all in proportion and that it's all nice and round. And now we are going to start to round off the top of her ear. So we don't want to take off too much because we'll lose that fullness through this area. And then just tipping slightly. If I kept scissoring into the top of that ear, we wouldn't have that definite line. So we need to be careful we're not cutting straight into it. We need to come up and around that area, so around the top of that ear leather, or that fake ear leather that we've created up here. So I like to keep like a good, like maybe 2 to 3 centimeters of hair, because it is shorter, so it's going to sit on top of these longer bits here, so it's supported by the hair here. And let's begin to work on the other side. So combing everything out, all those little bits of hair, making sure there's no other cuttings from where we've scissored her head, and making sure they haven't caused any little snags in that coat, and working our way up that ear. And making sure they're nice and even on both sides. And again, always working up that ear to create that nice round edge. I'm just going to check how much hair we've actually left on this side of the ear compared to this side. So this side seems to have a lot more. So now I'm going to continue blending that ear into that nice round ball that we're after. So just moving Summer's head to the side, and I'm now going to work on the back of her ear. So I've combed it all out, and then I'm just going to round the back of her ear into the side of her ear. And again, I don't just scissor one spot, like I'm constantly moving and making sure I'm getting that nice round appearance. Once I've got the shape I want in those ears, I'm going to comb them all out, again with my fine tooth comb. Give a light spritz with the Relax Co-Conditioning Spray. And then I'm going to use my curves and just tip off any little bits of hair. So this will give that nice plush look. So I'm not changing the shape, I'm just tipping off any little edges. So Summer's ears are looking pretty fabulous. So all we need to work on now is the top of her muzzle area. So we're going to use our thinners and blend this in so it's nice and soft. Using our fine tooth comb, we are just going to comb everything out, but making sure there's no long bits around her little lip area. And then using my thinners, so these are the 65 tooth 7.5 Spartans, and I'm just using the tips and I'm going with the direction of the coat growth. So I'm not coming up against, I'm going with. So if we go against, it will actually thin out that coat. If we go with, it will blend it into itself. So going with, we'll just blend it, and it's just top cutting. But if we come up against it, see how all of a sudden it's picking up a little bit more hair? But when we go with, it's blending it. And cross-checking with my comb again. Use my comb again. I use my comb a lot. And making that edge nice and round. And then just combing out in front of her eye area, so at the back of where we've been trimming. And I'm going to come in and just neaten all this area up, because we can actually build up our muzzle area from behind as well. But she doesn't have a lot of hair on her muzzle, she never has, so I don't know if it's because she constantly rubs her head, I'm not sure. And we can already see the softness throughout this side of her muzzle compared to this side. So this side has really a hard line from when we've scissored, and then this side is nice and soft from where we've blended. And moving on to her other side, so making sure we comb everything out. Oh, she's had enough. And again, going with the direction. Once we have blended in these two sides, we are now going to blend in the underneath area. So again, I like to go with the direction of the coat, and I just keep working my way through. And using my comb everything upwards. And just make sure everything's nice and neat and tidy. I also like to blend in our jawline area, so where we've clipped, because remember we've clipped her on a number 3 blade, and I like to blend in where we've got that transitional line from where we've scissored into where we've clipped. So it blends in really nicely. So Summer's haircut is all complete, and we have finished her beautiful sweet little head. So this trim really suits her, and if you are after something a little bit different but not too over the top, this would be perfect for your dog. So it works really well on dogs with curly coats, so your poodles, your bichons, and some of your oodle type breeds, so like your cavoodles or your spoodles it could work on. If you guys have any questions, pop them in the comments below, and Summer and I will get back to you, or I will get back to you, but Summer might be asleep because she's very tired. And until next time, happy grooming.